Here is something almost nobody is taking the time to explain, and it is quietly making one of the most powerful foods on your plate work at only a fraction of its true potential. If you eat tomatoes on any kind of regular basis, whether that is a few slices tucked into a sandwich, a handful chopped into a salad, or a rich sauce simmered over the stove, then you are already doing something genuinely good for your body. You have made a smart choice without even realizing how smart it was. But there is one small step that most people never take, and it happens to be the exact step that decides how much of the single most important compound inside that tomato your blood vessels are actually able to use. The part you are almost certainly missing is directly connected to nitric oxide, one of the most heavily researched molecules in all of circulation science, and one of the most important things your blood vessels quietly depend on every single day to keep you feeling steady, clear, energized, and genuinely like yourself. Welcome back to Wellness Daily. This channel exists for one reason and one reason only: to take real, published nutrition science and translate it into plain, honest human language that actually makes sense in the context of your everyday life. No fear tactics, no miracle promises, no products being quietly sold to you in the background, just what the research genuinely says and how you can begin using it starting tonight in your own kitchen with things you already own. By the end of this video, you are going to understand one simple pairing, something you can do with a food you are very likely already eating, that may meaningfully change how much your body is truly getting out of every single tomato you put on your plate. Stay with me all the way through to the end, because I am going to walk you through 3 specific practical ways to do this, including one final method that works beautifully even if you are not a fan of raw tomatoes in any form at all. That last one might honestly turn out to be the most powerful version of everything we are about to discuss together. Let me start with the foundation, and I promise to keep every part of this clear and easy to follow. Inside your body, at this very moment, there is a molecule called nitric oxide quietly doing its work. I want you to picture your arteries like a soft, flexible garden hose. When that hose is relaxed, open, and supple, water moves through it effortlessly. There is no pressure building up anywhere, no strain along the length of the line, and everything downstream receives exactly what it needs, right when it needs it. That is a remarkably accurate picture of what nitric oxide does for your blood vessels every single day. It helps the walls of your arteries stay relaxed and open so that blood can flow through freely and smoothly. Oxygen travels where it is supposed to go, nutrients reach your brain, your muscles, and your organs without resistance or delay. And your heart does not have to strain and work overtime to force everything through a system that has become tight, narrow, and stiff over the years. As the body gradually ages, its natural ability to produce nitric oxide tends to slowly decline. This is not something dramatic or sudden that you would notice overnight. It is quiet, gradual, and remarkably easy to miss entirely. Researchers describe it as a well-recognized feature of how blood vessels naturally change over the course of time. And it is one of the real reasons that the kind of effortless, clear energy and comfortable, easy circulation that felt completely automatic at 30 years old can begin to feel just a little harder to hold on to in the decades that follow. The body is simply producing slightly less of the very molecule that kept everything running so smoothly for so long. But here is the part that genuinely matters, and it is the entire reason this video exists in the first place. Nitric oxide production is not fixed. It is not some permanent switch that gets turned down over time with absolutely no way to influence it. It responds in a real and studied and documented way to what you actually choose to give your body. It responds to movement, to proper rest, and very directly to specific compounds found in real, ordinary, everyday food. And one of the most fascinating and most heavily studied of those foods is something that almost every single household on the planet already has sitting on the counter or waiting in the refrigerator right now. That food is the humble tomato. The tomato contains something called lycopene. It is a natural plant pigment, the exact thing responsible for giving a fully ripe tomato its deep, rich red color, and it belongs to a family of compounds known as carotenoids. Lycopene is one of the most extensively studied antioxidants in the entire plant kingdom. Nutrition researchers have examined it from nearly every conceivable angle, and what keeps surfacing again and again in the literature is its meaningful connection to vascular health, specifically to the health of the blood vessel wall itself. Research published in respected peer-reviewed journals has found that lycopene supports healthy endothelial function. The endothelium is the incredibly thin layer of cells lining the entire inside of your blood vessels, and it happens to be the precise location where nitric oxide is actually produced within your body. When the endothelium is under stress, when it is exposed to too much oxidative damage accumulating over time, its ability to produce nitric oxide steadily goes down. Lycopene, functioning as a powerful antioxidant, has been studied specifically for its ability to help reduce that oxidative pressure being placed on the blood vessel wall. One study found that lycopene increased nitric oxide bioavailability directly within endothelial cells. Another clinical trial found that regular lycopene intake was associated with genuinely improved endothelial function in otherwise healthy adults, measured through a standard and well-established test of blood vessel flexibility called flow-mediated dilation. These are not fringe or speculative findings floating around the edges of science. This is published, peer-reviewed research examining a real mechanism operating within real human tissue. And yet almost every single conversation about eating more tomatoes stops right there, at the exact point where you learn they are good for you, without anyone bothering to tell you the one thing that actually determines whether your body absorbs what those tomatoes truly have to offer. Stay with me closely here, because what comes next genuinely changes everything about how you should be eating this food. Lycopene is fat-soluble. Two simple words, but together they completely transform the entire picture of what happens inside your digestive system when you eat a tomato. Let me explain exactly what that means without a single piece of complicated language. Think for a moment about what happens when you pour a small amount of oil into a tall glass of water and try your very best to stir the two together. No matter how vigorously or how long you mix them, they separate almost immediately. The oil floats right back up to the surface and refuses to blend in. Your digestive system behaves in a surprisingly similar way when it comes to processing certain plant compounds. Lycopene was built by nature to travel through fat and not through water. So when you eat a tomato completely on its own, with absolutely no fat present anywhere in that same meal, your gut has a genuinely difficult time absorbing that lycopene efficiently. A significant portion of everything that tomato was quietly offering you simply passes straight through your digestive system without ever making it into your bloodstream in a form your body can actually put to use. This is one of the most consistently supported ideas in all of carotenoid nutrition science. Multiple human studies have found that lycopene bioavailability, meaning how much of it is actually absorbed and successfully reaches the blood, goes up substantially when tomatoes are eaten alongside a source of dietary fat. One carefully controlled human trial found that all lycopene forms in the blood increased significantly when olive oil was added to tomato juice, compared to that exact same tomato juice consumed completely on its own. The difference measured was not small, and it was not marginal. It was precisely the kind of difference that genuinely matters for what your blood vessels are ultimately receiving. So if you have been eating plain tomato slices on a dry plate, or adding them to a bare salad with no dressing at all, or cutting them up and eating them as a simple snack, and quietly wondering why you have not felt the kind of difference you expected to feel, this is almost certainly the reason why. Your body was simply not absorbing the lycopene that tomato had waiting inside it. And that means the entire connection to nitric oxide, the connection to the health of your blood vessels, was largely going unrealized with every single bite you took. Let us go ahead and fix that right now, together. Here is the simple shift, and it requires nothing expensive, nothing new, and nothing you do not already have sitting in your home. Pair your tomato with a source of healthy fat, and one of the most studied and most effective options for doing exactly this is extra virgin olive oil. Here is what genuinely happens inside you when you bring these two foods together. When fat is present in the same meal as the tomato, it creates a kind of internal transport system for that lycopene. Picture it like a small fleet of delivery vehicles quietly arriving on the scene. Without those vehicles, lycopene is left standing alone at the side of the road with nowhere at all to go. Your gut simply does not have an efficient mechanism to pick it up and carry it into the bloodstream on its own. But the fat from that olive oil helps escort the lycopene through the digestive process, supports its passage into the lymphatic system, and from there moves it into circulation, where it can finally reach the blood vessel wall, interact directly with the endothelium, and do exactly what the research shows it is truly capable of doing. Extra virgin olive oil also brings something valuable of its very own to this equation. Good quality olive oil contains a whole family of natural plant compounds called polyphenols. These polyphenols have themselves been extensively studied for their role in supporting healthy blood vessel function and in helping the body manage everyday inflammation throughout the vascular system. So when you combine a tomato with extra virgin olive oil, you are not only dramatically improving the delivery of lycopene into your bloodstream, you are simultaneously adding an entire second set of vascular supportive compounds at the very same moment. Two distinct mechanisms, two separate directions of support, coming from two ordinary ingredients that most people already have sitting well within arm's reach. And I want to be completely honest and straightforward with you about what all of this actually means. This is a real, food-based habit, firmly grounded in genuine nutrition science regarding how fat-soluble compounds are absorbed by the human body. It is not a guaranteed treatment for anything, and it works best as one steady, consistent part of an overall healthy way of eating and living. It is absolutely not a replacement for anything that your own doctor, Dr. Mason Hayes, has already recommended to you personally. But the underlying science supporting it is solid, it is well studied, and it is reproducible across multiple trials. Let me give you a simple way to truly picture what this difference looks like in ordinary everyday terms. Imagine two people, roughly the same age, with broadly similar overall diets, both eating tomatoes on a regular basis because they have heard it is good for their health. The first person eats their tomatoes exactly the way they always have, completely plain and on their own, with nothing added. The second person starts adding just 1 single tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil every single time they eat tomatoes. Same tomatoes, same frequency, same amount. The only variable that differs between them is that one small, simple addition of oil. And based on everything we currently understand from the science of carotenoid absorption, the second person is getting meaningfully more lycopene into their bloodstream with every single meal they eat. More lycopene reaching the endothelium, more support for the very cells that produce nitric oxide, and more of everything that tomato was always quietly offering, simply because the conditions for proper absorption were finally in place. That is what this video is truly about at its heart. It was never really about eating more tomatoes than you already do. It is entirely about making the tomatoes you are already eating actually count for something. Now, let me give you 3 specific practical ways to put this into action starting tonight. No special ingredients required, no complicated preparation, just real food used the right way. The first method is the most direct, and by far the easiest place for anyone to start. Slice 2 or 3 fully ripe tomatoes, red or vine ripened, into rounds or wedges, the very same way you might already put them into a salad, or serve them alongside your meal. Drizzle 1 full tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil directly over the top of them. Add a small pinch of sea salt and a few torn fresh basil leaves if you happen to have them. Then let the whole thing simply rest for about 5 minutes before you eat it. That short resting period allows the olive oil to fully coat the tomato so that from the very first bite, the fat and the lycopene arrive in your mouth, your stomach, and your digestive system at exactly the same time. This works beautifully alongside any meal at all. The easiest way to make it truly stick over the long term is to attach it to something you already do at a regular time each day. Stack it onto an existing habit, and it quickly becomes automatic, requiring no real decision or willpower from you at all. The second method works especially well for anyone who wants a little more flavor and complexity, or for anyone who finds plain sliced tomatoes a bit too simple or too mild all on their own. Dice your tomatoes finely, almost down into a soft, chunky texture. Combine them with extra virgin olive oil, a generous squeeze of fresh lemon juice, a small amount of finely minced garlic, and a pinch of sea salt. The lemon here is not only there for its bright taste. Vitamin C is a nutrient that has been studied for its own supporting role in blood vessel health, and specifically for protecting nitric oxide from being broken down too quickly within circulation. The garlic adds natural sulfur compounds that carry their own long and respected history within vascular nutrition research. Together, this becomes a genuinely layered mixture that works wonderfully spooned over grilled fish, stirred through cooked whole grains, or spread generously across a piece of whole grain toast. It keeps well in the refrigerator for up to 2 full days, which means you can prepare 1 full batch a single time and have it ready and waiting without any extra effort across several different meals. The third method is for anyone who simply does not enjoy raw tomatoes in any form whatsoever, or for anyone whose stomach finds raw preparations a little too acidic or too sharp to sit comfortably. This one also happens to be the exact version where the science of lycopene absorption is working the most powerfully in your favor. Slowly cook whole or half tomatoes in a pan together with extra virgin olive oil over a gentle low heat until they collapse down into a soft, rich, almost jammy texture. What that heat does to the lycopene is genuinely fascinating. It actually converts the lycopene from its raw form into a different molecular shape, one that research has found to be considerably easier for the human body to absorb than the lycopene present in fresh, uncooked tomatoes. Combined with the fat from the olive oil already in the pan, this slow-cooked version may very well represent the highest bioavailability version of this entire pairing. Season it simply with a little sea salt and some fresh thyme or oregano. Use it as a warm sauce over eggs in the morning, stir it through pasta at dinner, or serve it as a comforting warm side dish right alongside whatever you happen to be making. It is deeply flavorful, naturally sweet, and far easier on digestion than anything raw could ever be. Here is what I truly want you to carry with you from today, long after this video ends. Your body's ability to support healthy nitric oxide production and to keep your blood vessels working the way they were genuinely designed to work is not some fixed, inevitably declining thing with no meaningful way left to support it. It responds in a real and documented and studied way to what you actually choose to give it, day after day. Real food, used in the way that both nature and basic digestive science actually work in harmony together, can make a genuine and lasting difference over time, quietly and consistently, in the background of your everyday life. This was never about fear. It was never about a supplement, or a product, or some complicated and expensive intervention. It is about one small, entirely free change to a habit that many of you very likely already have, using something that has been sitting there in your kitchen the whole time, now simply used a little more effectively than it was before. One honest note before we wrap everything up here. Everything covered in this video reflects current nutrition science regarding how fat-soluble compounds like lycopene are absorbed, and lycopene's studied connection to endothelial and vascular health. It is intended for general educational purposes only. It is not medical advice, and it is not any kind of substitute for guidance from your own physician, particularly if you happen to have an existing cardiovascular condition, if you are currently taking any prescribed medication, or if you have any other diagnosed health concern of any kind. Please do speak with your doctor, Dr. Mason Hayes, before making any significant changes to your regular diet. If this gave you something genuinely useful today, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button. It takes only about 2 seconds of your time, and it truly helps this kind of information reach far more people who could quietly benefit from hearing it. Subscribe to Wellness Daily if you are not already here with us, so that you never miss whatever comes next. We publish practical, research-grounded content exactly like this every single week, built entirely around the goal of giving you real, usable information that you can genuinely act on starting today. And please do drop a comment down below. Are you going to try the tomato and olive oil combination for yourself tonight? And if you already eat tomatoes on a regular basis, tell me honestly how you usually have them prepared, because I read every single comment that comes in, and what you share with me genuinely shapes and guides what we choose to cover next here together on Wellness Daily. Thank you so very much for watching all the way through. I will see you again very soon in the next one.